All right, I think we might get started because there's a little bit of an introduction period and then people can still join us as they go. So welcome all to this session about cultural access funding, which is for priority area projects for individuals and organisations. We are going to record this session, so please be aware of that. And Jessie, if I can ask you to turn on the recording now. So the recording will be available on our website, probably not for a few days, but soon. So please keep your microphone on mute. We will have opportunity for lots of questions later, but we'll just do an initial introduction. There is also captioning option available through Teams. If you haven't used it before, you can use the 3 dots button, the more button at the top there, and you can turn on captioning. If you've got any issues with Teams or with the accessibility functions, we've got a few people here on the team here that might be able to help you. So maybe just if you've got any issues, use the chat function. Well, welcome everybody. My name is David Everest. I'm manager here at Create New South Wales as part of the Arts Funding Program. Just quickly about me, I've been at Create for a few years now. Prior to that, I was also a practicing artist and theatre maker, mainly in Melbourne, and I worked at the Footscray Community Arts Centre for over 10 years as theatre coordinator there, working a lot with different communities. We've got a team of people here from Create to also help answer the questions, and I'll get them to introduce themselves in a moment. But just before I introduce the team, I'd like to acknowledge, maybe just have the next slide, Jessie. I'd like to acknowledge that we're all living and working on Aboriginal land, and Create New South Wales acknowledges the First Nations peoples across the state and their continued connection to their lands and culture. We pay our respects to elders past and present and the continuing vital role that they play in contributing to our culture and their culture. I'm actually coming to you up from Gambungia country up on the mid-north coast, beautiful country up here, and pay my respects to elders and the local community here. So quickly, before we get into the introducing the actual program and some questions, I thought it'd be good just to introduce the team that's here. And we'll just start with from my left to right, for no particular order, maybe Jessie, if you can start and introduce yourself.
Thanks, David. Hi, everyone. Lovely to see you all here. Yeah, happy to be here today. My name's Jessie. I've been on the Arts Funding and Development team for about 3 years. I'm a practicing artist as well in my spare time. And yeah, I've got a photographic and a sculptural practice. Yeah, I live up in the Northern Rivers on Bundjalung country, and happy to be here and answering all our questions. Thanks, David.
Thanks, Jessie. And Nick.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. Great to see you all. My name's Nick. I'm an Arts Funding and Development Officer here on the Arts Funding and Development team at Create New South Wales. Started here in 2020, and also have a arts practice in painting, and have been exhibiting in various places over the last 8 years or so. And yeah.
And you've even got one of your works as your background.
Yeah, got little Balgownie service station.
Awesome. And Kartika.
Thanks, David. Hi, everyone. My name is Kartika. I've been with the Arts Funding team for almost 5 years now. And yeah, I've got a background in visual arts and also dancing as well. So good to see you all. Back to you, David.
Thank you. And next slide, Jessie. So we're going to do a brief overview of the program. It should take about 10 minutes, and then we're basically going to open up to questions. And we've done that over the last couple of days, and it's been really useful. We've had some really great questions. You can either ask them online just by putting your hand up, or you can also ask them in the chat, and we'll endeavour to do our best job at answering them as much as we can. But just to give you the kind of the basic rundown on cultural access, we'll just provide a couple of slides about that. And Nick, I think you're going to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, thanks, David. So cultural access priority area projects for individuals and organisations. We've got some points on the screen here about various objectives of this funding round. This funding round, I believe it's the second time round for it. This is round 2. So cultural access grants came about in response to the Creative Communities policy. So still recent, and if you've looked at any arts and cultural funding program grants before the previous round, then this one may still be new. So it was made as part of the reform of the Creative Communities policy. And the purpose of this funding is to strengthen communities through equitable access to vibrant arts and cultural experiences. So this funding will enable the creation and presentation of new work designed and led by priority and target creative practitioners, groups, businesses and organisations in New South Wales. It'll strengthen communities through equitable access to arts and cultural experiences, develop diverse cultural leadership within the arts and cultural ecosystem, enhance the visibility of new work by prioritising New South Wales artists and arts and cultural workers, strengthen the creative ecosystem through collaborations and partnerships, support access to resources and expertise for individual artists, and contribute to personal and community wellbeing and economic development.
Right, thanks, Nick. And Kartika, just the key points of this round.
Thanks, David. So for this grant, individuals, groups, organisations and LGAs are eligible to apply. In terms of the funding amounts, so we've got $10,000 to $100,000. This is in 2 categories. So small projects is from $10,000 up to $40,000, and then large projects is from $40,001 up to $100,000. In terms of the types of projects funded under this grant, the project must demonstrate that it has a focus on arts and culture and directly benefits New South Wales artists, arts and cultural workers, and or New South Wales communities and audiences. It can be, towards creative development and or the presentation of new work. For this particular grant, the applications also need to demonstrate that the project is led by or supports one of the strategic priority areas. So the 6 priority areas are First Nations stories and communities, accessibility and equity, regional New South Wales, Western Sydney, broad and inclusive communities and content. And then the last one is next generation of creatives and audiences. And then we've also got here on the slide eligible costs for the project. So it can go towards, the hiring of a space and also artist fees based on industry standard rates as well. So there's a couple more that you can read through. So those are the sort of the main key points for the Culture Access Grant. Pass it on to you, David.
Excellent, thank you. And yeah, as part of this, there are the key assessment criteria, which really important for you to address when in your application. And Jessie, if you can just go through these briefly.
Yeah, certainly. Thanks, David. So yeah, on the screen here, you can see we've got the first two. There's 5 different assessment criteria that the cultural access grants will be assessed against. The first one is the idea, which is weighted with a 30% weighting. It's basically, where you want to sort of articulate the vision of the project, to summarize the aims, its purpose. The question that will prompt this response is, what do you want to do? So we've left it quite open, and you can sort of do with that what you will, but there's some points under here that you can see on the screen that you might want to sort of use as a launching off point. So after idea, we've also got diversity and participation, which has got a 20% weighting, which is basically, pardon me, demonstrating how your project is relevant to, or who it's going to benefit. So the question in this section is, why do you want to do it? And yeah, you can also see these points here on the screen that you might want to consider, such as, who will it benefit, potentially other artists or communities or audiences, and also, which strategic priority areas is this project focusing on, whether that's regional New South Wales or next generation of creatives and audiences. It's open-ended. And sorry, bear with me. Here we are. So the third criteria is experience, which is 20%. That's basically listing the artistic experience of the people that are involved in the project. So that's the section where, we want to know who's involved and why are they the right people for this activity. The fourth criteria is sustainability, which is 20%. That's basically the budget section of the application. So that's the section where the assessors will be looking at how the funding is actually going to be spent and what that looks like. The final criteria is planning, which is just 10%, and that's basically the details of the activities, the sort of nuts and bolts of it, the dates, the location of the project. That sort of thing. And the question is, how will the activities and where will they take place ensure that the project achieves its outcomes? Thanks, David.
Awesome, thanks. So look, obviously all this information is in the link that I've just provided there as part of the guidelines, and also just adding here the glossary, which can be useful in terms of defining some of those terms for the different categories, etc. So it can be quite useful using that as well. Noticing that applications are open at the moment and will close on the 30th of April at 5 p.m. So we recommend that you do read the program guidelines, review the glossary, and we do have other resources available. And then the actual application form is linked through the guidelines there, but it's through the Smarty Grants online system. Again, we're very happy to help you if you get stuck with any of this or you have any questions around this, and you can make a booking through our online system as well. And that's thank you very much. The frequently asked questions as well is really useful, and we'll also put in Nick, if you can also put in the link to our bookings online, that'd be great. So the process has been simplified, but there are still, lots of issues there and lots of parts of it that we can help you with. Obviously, we can't give you feedback on your application as such, but we can answer any questions that you have in relation to it. So let's open up for questions. And we've got one here straight off the bat from Maria.
Oh,
hi, Maria.
Hi, David. Nice to talk to you again. Just wondering if you know if there'll be around 3 this year for 2026 projects.
Yes, there will be.
Okay.
It'll technically be round 1 for financial year, because we are operating on financial year. But yeah, there will be another round this year, probably towards the end of August. We still haven't completely locked down the dates yet, but yeah, around that time there will be another round for projects that will be for 2026.
Yeah, great. And just one of the questions, I think it's about the project, what will you communicate to artists and the community? Can you tell me what you mean by that question?
Sure. I guess that's in terms of how you speak about your project. So in the kind of simplifying of the questions, and that first question being, what do you want to do? It's very much around trying to be clear and concise in explaining, I guess, even pitching what your project is. And I guess in relation to that, how you would pitch it or explain it to the artists involved, so that we get a sense of the assessors get a sense of how you're communicating your idea. Does that answer it?
Yeah, it's what I thought. I just want to check.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Thank you. Yeah, look, any question, all questions are useful, and I think we've got one in the chat there. So maybe, can you read that for us, Kartika?
Yes, we just had a question from Diana saying, can you start the application and then save and continue it later? Nick has just replied to say that, yeah, that's possible to do that on Smarty Grants.
Absolutely. Yeah, so there is a save function in Smarty Grants. We also have there's a couple of ways you can play. You can also apply via video. So to answer those first 2 questions in the criteria, you can do that via video, or just audio as well. And that can be a really useful way if you don't feel like writing is your kind of key strength. So that's the option. The other option, if you request it from it, we can provide you the Smarty Grants form in a Word format, which can sometimes just make it a little bit easier. So you can work from the Word format, and then you obviously have to then copy and paste it back into the Smarty Grants form, but some people prefer to do it that way.
Great. So we've just got a question. Oh, sorry. Go, Jessie. All right, so in the chat box, we've got a question here from Nicolina. Does a multicultural jazz festival or series of concerts fit into this application category?
Look, quite possibly. Depends a little bit on the details around that. With this category, we're really to be competitive, the actual project needs to be led by or involve, at least 50% of the artists involved from one of the priority area groups. So depending, I guess, on how the festival is managed and how it's being led, then that would kind of be a key part of that, whether it fits into cultural access or potentially no, because if it's a festival, it doesn't really fall into the creative steps. So you might want to book an appointment with us to just chat through the details of that, and also whether it fits into some of the categories within Sound New South Wales, because there's obviously Sound New South Wales covers some music categories and some music festivals.
Okay, so we've got a question here from Kate. Can a non-New South Wales artist apply if the project is working with regional New South Wales artists and gallery?
As an individual artist, no, because as an individual artist, you do need to be residing in New South Wales for the last 12 months. But as a project as such, it can be the project organisation can be outside of New South Wales, as long as the project is supporting New South Wales artists and New South Wales audiences. But we do have that the applicant, if you're an individual applicant, you do need to be have lived in New South Wales for the last 12 months. So not as an individual applicant. I hope that's clear.
Okay, we've just got another question from Diana. In terms of the Word format for the application, where can we access it?
If you can just either give us a call or email us at the arts.funding email that's at the bottom of the, we'll provide it again at the end, but it's also at the bottom of the guidelines, and request it, then we can send it to you via email.
Okay, so we've got another question here from Shabana. If I am applying for the professional development funding, am I eligible to apply for this funding as well? For example, if she wanted to access some funding for her own professional development, but also to apply for cultural access project, can she apply as part of the company that I run?
So as an individual, you can only apply for one of the currently open rounds. So as an individual, you can't apply for professional development next steps and apply for cultural access. But if you're part of a group or team that is doing something, if someone else is applying or is the applicant, that's okay. But obviously it can't be for the same thing, because that would be a kind of a double dipping for the same thing. But if it was for, so to explain it probably, technically you could apply for a professional development thing that was separate, but the skills that you develop could then be used in a separate project that is applied for by an organisation that you are part of. But you can't apply for the actual same thing, and you can't as an individual apply twice. So hopefully that covers it, but also yeah, very welcome to set up a time to discuss it further. Oh, good. Sort of makes sense. Excellent. Great.
I think that's all the questions in the chat box so far, David.
Questions. All right, fantastic. Anyone else with any questions at this stage? Anything that's, even if it's just a small thing, please feel free to jump on. Kate. Oh, you're on mute, I think.
Sorry. Hi again.
Hi again.
Hello. Thank you for this. I just wanted to quickly ask about multi-phase projects. So, for example, if something had a part that took place in one location and then it had another part in another location, or if it had a kind of mentorship role part as well as like a making part, I guess, is there any info you can give about kind of focus or priorities around whether it'd be better to just apply for one part of a bigger project and describe the whole project and that we're applying for money for part, or to sort of apply for the whole project? Yeah, just, I mean, there's just different ways that you can kind of go about applying when you've got like a timeline of a project that might have multiple phases of creative development. And just thinking about whether Create New South Wales would like to kind of fund the whole picture or part of, or, you know, obviously it's project dependent, but just your thoughts on that.
Yeah, very good question.
Sorry.
And very, very, hard to really lock down a definitive answer to that. But I guess the thing to be always thinking about is the assessment panel and the group of people that will be looking at this, and what's going to be the most compelling way of talking about the project, and what's going to be the most kind of compelling bits of it. And if you can kind of explain the whole project in, you know, one cohesive thing with the different elements to it, then, you know, that could be very strong. If it starts to get a bit complicated and a bit kind of hard to explain, then that's when, you know, I imagine you'd start to be questioning whether that's the right approach, because, yeah, it just might start to, I always think, you know, way of looking at the assessment boards and how they think is you try not to have any questions. You try and answer all the questions in your, how you express the project, because the more questions that are asked, the kind of more kind of doubts that come into the assessors' heads, and therefore they're likely to, you know, start to, you know, not mark it as highly in some of the various criteria if they're not clear. So that's probably the best shot of an answer I can do to that, because, yeah, it really depends on the project and how you want to explain it, and then, you know, how it can be justified in the budget, etc., that you're wanting to ask for.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sort of answer it?
Thank you. Yes, it's helpful. Yes, thank you.
Cool. So there's also a question, when do we advertise the next round? Look, it should be pretty soon. Yeah, just waiting on a few final things to fall into place, but should be fairly soon. Maria, you've got another question?
Yeah, sorry. In relation to the assessment boards, will we be able to find out some more information about those? I mean, who's assessing this round? Yeah, these rounds.
Yeah, the has been a bit of delay with that. It again should be on our website soon, but yeah, just don't have the final details of that available yet. Still under embargo.
Okay, no problem. Yeah. Thank you.
We just got a question here from Lisa, just double checking if the funding is for a new project.
Yeah, so yeah, all this is for this is funding for new work and new projects, but that's pretty broadly defined. So it can be for the developmental phase of it. It can be for the final outcome phase of it. And yeah, a new project, you know, is fairly broadly defined in terms, you know, it can be a reinterpretation of another work, but previous work, but it has to be competitive. Obviously, the boards will be looking at work that is new and not and exciting, you know, new and don't have any other words for that.
Okay, so I've got a question from Diana, just clarifying around how to, different options of responding in the application. So yeah, I guess there's that video option that you mentioned, David.
Yeah, so yeah, the first two questions can be answered via video or audio. You still do have to fill in the Smarty Grants form, etc., and you can essentially attach the recording file into the Smarty Grants portal, but you would have to, you know, create the file, you know, on your phone or on your computer, and then attach it into the Smarty Grants portal. So yeah, and you know, we definitely encourage people to do that, and you know, it can be a great way of expressing your project and getting your ideas across. Awesome. Well, look, maybe just well, if any more questions are coming in, maybe just from our team, just a few hints or tips that you would like to communicate as things that you think have been are important for people to think about when they're putting in their applications. Maybe Jesse, can start with you. Yeah.
Thanks, David. Yeah, I think a really good tip is if you have any questions when you're going through the form, it's really great to book in for an appointment to chat to one of the team. We can add that link into the chat, but yeah, I always recommend it if you want to sort of make sure that your project is sitting within the remit of the guidelines and the eligibility criteria. It's a great way to just make sure that you're on track. So please feel free to do that if you, if you're new to our funding programs, or if you just want to sort of make sure that you're on the right track.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, Jesse. Katika, do you want to?
Yeah, I was just going to add to that as well. So there is an option to download the preview of the form as well. So sometimes, it might be easier to sort of have a look at and skim through the questions. And then, as Jesse mentioned, if you know questions arise or you want clarification around a section, you can, write down the questions prior and book an appointment with us. So that's, I'd recommend doing that before applying. Also with the Smarty Grants, if you actually start the application on Smarty Grants, it may be difficult to sort of go back and forth. So it's just good to have it as a download. You can sort of scroll up and down and have a look to see what will be asked.
Right. Thank you, Kartika. And Nick, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I was thinking around some of the sort of budget questions that we sometimes get as important section of the application there, and I guess the general piece of advice is to let the budget tell the story, or some of the story of what you're doing, and really use the opportunity in those comment sections there where you're talking about your income and expenditure to break down the numbers that you're providing. So it's got all those sections for income and expenditure with like your wages and fees, and if there's just like a number there for what the request is, to sort of use those comment sections to break it down. If there's like 10,000 in artist fees, how many artists are there? Is everyone kind of getting the same, or are they working different times? And these kinds of things. It's sort of like using that section as another way of adding to or clarifying some of the other text heavy or word heavy parts of the application. So if there are sort of any questions that an assessor might be looking at, they might even be able to find some of the answers there in the budget.
Yeah, great advice. It's really important. And as we've been saying, also very happy to, make a time to talk to the staff, and we can potentially help you with some of those issues around budgets. Also, there's just a little bit of the question there about add images to the application. It's really good to have good support material, and we really, it's a very important part of the application, and you can add images, videos or documents to the application form, and we, can be that's an important part of what the assessors look at. We recommend that don't put too much information, because assessors only have limited time to read and assess all the applications. So make sure that the support material that you provide is really succinct, it's really relevant to the project that you're applying for, and that it really speaks to it and, expresses it and shows the quality and the importance of your work in relation to that. So yeah, that's another key part of the assessment process that's really useful to do and think about. We actually don't ask for support letters anymore. Really, we found that support letters were not very useful because, and they took a lot of time for a lot of people to do, including the, institutions that were having to write a lot of them. And often people wrote them for people and then just got them to sign it. So really wasn't very useful. So instead, what we do suggest that you do have letters of confirmation. So letters of confirmation are much more about if you're talking about partnering with another artist or an organisation, that the letter of confirmation just confirms that that's happening. Or if you're working in a particular venue and they're providing in-kind support, it's useful to have a letter of confirmation that is actually what's happening. So anything that you're speaking about in the application in terms of partnerships or collaborations that are significant to the project, it is very useful to have a letter of that identifies that. So it's not really a letter of support. It's kind of is a letter of support, but it's more a letter of confirming that partnership or that connection is actually a real connection. So hopefully that answers that one. Excellent. All right. Well, look, we've got a smaller group here today, so hopefully we've answered all your questions. And well, late. So yeah, hopefully we've answered all your questions. And if you do have any other questions, please contact the team, and we are very happy to help you out in any way that we can. And yeah, all the best. As I'm sure you all know, it is a very competitive process. And there are lots of amazing projects that would, love to be funded, but unfortunately it is competitive. So it is really good to talk to our team, talk to other people, to try and improve your applications, to express your ideas and what you're hoping to do in the best way that you possibly can. All right, unless we've got any other questions there. No, it looks like we're all good. So thank you all very much and all the best. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.